Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I'm your teacher Simi Namir and today I'm here with a new lecture. I hope everything is going well through this difficult period. Please take care, stay positive and find some time for having fun and smiling. It is a challenging operating under the current restrictions. However, I'm confident we will get through this together inshallah. This is my lecture number 11 for grade 01 and today we have a geography class. So today we are going to over this chapter number 8, which is power resources. In the previous lectures we learnt about the alternative energy resources and I've told you that there is an energy crisis in Pakistan. The prevailing energy crisis in Pakistan is taking away 2% of the economy. Despite the government has spent rupees 1.1 trillion as the subsidies on the sector in the last 4 years, which accounts for 2.5% of the total volume of economy. One of the biggest cause of the energy crisis is scarcity of water because we do not have a proper system for water shortage due to which water is wasted. Water levels have gone down considerably in Pakistan and this shortage of water can be met by constructing many things like tube wells. So now we are going towards the alternative energy resources and even the water resource is the alternative energy resources which can be used for the generation of the hydroelectric energy. We learned about many alternative energy resources, the water, and biomass, biogas, tidal waves, and solar energy, thermal energy, and many more. So for today, we are going to start our lecture with page number 149, and the topic is Profile of Electricity Generation. The Water and Power Development Authority, WAPDA, and Karachi Electricity Supply Corporation (KESC) are the main organizations involved in power generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. The Karachi Nuclear Power Plant, a public sector organization, and some independent private producers are also involved in power generation. So these were the few organizations that are involved in power generation in Pakistan. National grid system. In the national grid system, electricity is generated in power stations and transported across Pakistan via the national grid system. To move power around the national grid before electrical power leaves a power station, it is transferred at high voltages by using set-up transformers to increase the voltage. Pakistan's power transmission system has power generating stations and load centers which are linked with each other, creating one of the world's largest national grid systems. Electricity in Pakistan is generated, transmitted, distributed, and retail supplied by two vertically integrated public sector companies, Water and Power Development Authority (WAPDA) for all of Pakistan except Karachi, and the Karachi Electric (K Electric) for the city of Karachi. Electricity is produced and generated in different parts of Pakistan, but that is the whole energy or the whole electricity is transmitted to the national grid system first. Then the national grid system will distribute and retail supply the electricity to different parts of the country by considering the need of the people, by the need of the domestic use and the industrial use. The national grid connects hydel generation in the north and thermal generation in mid-country and the south managed by WAPDA and KESC or the Karachi Electric Supply Corporation. It consists of a large network of transmission lines and grid stations to transmit power to load centers and then to commercial and domestic consumers throughout the country. The purpose of forming a national grid system is to supply electricity to different areas according to their requirements and not on the basis of their own power generation. For example, some areas of Pakistan where heavy industries are located require more electricity than they are capable of generating. Supplying electricity through the national grid system solves this problem. On the other hand, there are some areas where physical and human factors can generate more electricity than their actual requirement. This surplus means the extra electricity then use, the extra electricity then use. So this surplus electricity can then easily be transferred to other areas through this system. However, there is a lot of wastage of electricity through the transmission lines and grid station if they are not properly maintained, also due to the long distances involved. Installed generation capacity of WAPDA. It has installed both hydro and thermal power stations. So in Pakistan, we have both hydro and thermal power station. Hydro is like the power generation from the flow of water, and thermal is when we are using steam to move the turbines, that is thermal power stations. But the potential of the hydropower has not been fully exploited, like we have more potential in Pakistan, but that is not fully used. The hydel potential located in the northern areas and KPK or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa still remains largely untapped. So that is not yet discovered. In 2011 or 12, hydel generation accounted for about 33% of the electricity generation, while thermal electricity accounted for 67%. Adequate and assured supply of electricity is essential or important for sustained economic growth. Despite having an enormous potential of energy resources, there is a shortage of energy supplies, which is severely affecting the domestic, industrial, and commercial sectors. There are many factors responsible. The first factor is financial constraints. Financial constraint means financial restrictions, or we can say lack of money. Many of the power plants are not working to their full capacity due to financial constraints, lack of technical expertise, and maintenance facilities. The second factor is the reduction of water flow in the rivers. As you know, most of the rivers are collecting its water from the melting water of glaciers and ice capped mountains. But during the winter, as the temperature gets very low, so there's a very slow melt of snow, or we can say there's completely no melt of snow. During the winter season, the hydel power generation decreases because of the reduction in the flow of water in the rivers. And the next point is the electricity losses. Through the national grid system, which supplies electricity to all the provinces. There's a lot of wastage of electricity through the transmission lines and grid stations if they are not properly maintained. Also, due to the long distances involved, there's a long transmission line which causes losses of electricity. The another problem of factor is this siltation problem. The siltation in the reservoirs. Siltation is a process of accumulation of sediments like dust, soil, sand, gravels, and other particles in the rivers and rivers, dams, or reservoirs. This is actually occurs due to the stagnant water in huge water storage. All rivers naturally carry silt in their flow due to velocity of flow. So siltation in the reservoirs of dams also causes disruption in electricity generation by reducing the flow of water, as it is also reducing the capacity of the reservoirs and dams to hold the water. As the silts are depositing in the bottom of the dams and the reservoirs. So that's how the capacity of holding water will reduce. The silting process of reservoirs is determined by several natural causes such as sediments transport in the river system, bank and shore erosion, and bank and slope sliding in the rivers or the reservoirs. Another fact is the power theft. You must have heard about this power theft. Locally, we call it a kunda system. Power theft occurs on a large scale. Until recently, the terrible or the horrible loss and theft from Karachi Electric Supply Corporation was approximately 41%. That is 41% of the electricity generated was not paid for by those using it. Water and Power Development Authority WAPDA suffered about 21% losses in transmission and distribution. The next is the problem of the high prices of fossil fuels. Um, that the rate of or the prices of the fossil fuels are constantly increasing, and due to which there is a rise of the cost of the electricity generation. And the last one is the high demand for electricity. And this is because of the industrialization, the urbanization, and the rural electrification. Industrialization means when we are using more and more industries, we are having more industries in the country, so we are moving toward more industrialization. Urbanization is the increase in the proportion of people living in towns and cities. Like it occurs when people move from rural areas to urban areas, especially in search of jobs and employment opportunities. And there are so many facilities or infrastructure available in urban areas. And then rural electrification, when the electricity is uh, provided to rural areas. So they cause a lot of increase in the demand for electricity. Then is the electricity consumption by economic groups. Here you can see the year and the domestic group, the commercial group, the industrial group, the agriculture group, and other groups that are using the energy and electricity. The private power sector. The government is encouraging the private sector to invest resources in power generation. Out of the 19 projects, 5 have commenced commercial operation and are delivering power to their respective grid stations. The 1,292 megawatt hub power project commenced or started its commercial operation on March 31st, 1997. So private power sector is also involved in the electricity generation. Then is the rural electrification, means the supply of electricity to rural areas or to villages. Energy, or we can say electricity, is a basic necessity of life which is required to both to rural areas and to urban areas. About 67.5% of the population lives in the rural areas. Most of the rural areas are deprived of even the basic facilities of modern life. Electricity is one of those facilities that can prove a milestone in rural development. Rural electrification has many social and economic advantages. So the first advantage is like we can install the tube wells. If we supply electricity to rural areas, so tube wells can be installed for irrigation. You know that irrigation is the artificial supply of water, the areas where there is no supply of water, like there's no nearby rivers to divert the river channel or to make canals, so we can install tube wells there. This will also help to control waterlogging and salinity. As I've told you, that increase in the water table is the level of the groundwater. When it rises above the surface of the earth, it is causing water logging, as it has stagnant water or the standing water. So when we are tapping out the groundwater through tube wells, as it is the automatic system, so we can tap out the groundwater from its very depth, which will reduce the problem of waterlogging and salinity. And consequently, there could be a marked increase in the agricultural production. So by supplying electricity to rural areas, small-scale industries can be developed to provide employment and to meet the demand for industrial goods. Small-scale industries are those industries like the very small scale, or we can say the cottage industries, that usually people are producing things or goods in their own houses. That is called the very small scale industries. So by providing energy or electricity to those areas, they can be developed, and even they can provide more employment opportunities, and there will be more production of industrial goods. So by provision of electricity, the standard of living increases. People can use electrical appliances, which can ultimately increases their um, production. So with the provision of electricity, people can receive the electronic media, and there would be access to information technology. There are many programs for rural development like Village Aid, Basic Democracy, and Rural Works Program. Providing electricity to rural area was one of the main targets of these programs. The number of villages electrified means the number of villages which was provided by electricity were increased to 171,000, more than 171,000 by March 2012, against only more than 40,000 in 1991 to 92. There are still many constraints or limitations to village electrification, like many of the small villages, especially in the KPK and Balochistan, are far from transmission line. So we need more transmission lines to provide electricity to these areas. The cost of laying and maintaining transmission lines is high and is an extra burden on the country's meager, or we can say limited, economic resources. So there's already burden on economic resources. How can we manage to transmit these lines to these areas? It is not yet economically feasible to provide electricity to very small villages. The government has set limits so that in KPK and Sindh villages with fewer than 1,000 people, and in Balochistan fewer than 300 people, will not be supplied. So in area where the population density is very low, like in KPK and Sindh, if it is lower than 1,000 people, and in Balochistan the population density lower than 300 people, so the areas will not be supplied with electricity. In order to help solve the above problems, electricity generation programs using biogas and solar energy are being tested. Importance of power resources for economic development. Energy resources play a very important role in the economic development of a country. A country which has well developed resources of energy has a better chance of development than a country with fewer energy resources. There is large number of resources which generate electricity. The power resources are important for Pakistan's economic development in the following ways. All the industrial plants, excluding cottage industries, small scale industries inside the houses that people are making, these are the cottage industries. So, all the industrial plants without cottage industries use power in processing raw material. When they are processing raw material, they are using electricity or they are using power. So, power shortage reduces production of industrial goods, and this increase the cost of production. Like we have, if we have low production, obviously whatever will be the good is the production good is, obviously the cost will be very high. So that will result in a lower GDP. GDP stands for gross domestic production. Gross means total, domestic inside the country, and production. So this is the production uh, uh, that is inside the country. Then is the modernization of agriculture is also heavily dependent on power resources. Tube wells are run by electricity, and electric agricultural machinery such as tractor, thresher, and combine harvesters use oil as a fuel for functioning. So when we are using machinery, modern agricultural machineries, it means that there is a modernization of agriculture. Power resources are used in exploration and extraction of metallic and non-metallic minerals. Mining and drilling machineries such as derrick. You know what is derrick? Derrick is when we are using it for drilling out the oil, the mineral oil or the petroleum. Then bulldozers, drills, and explosives and trucks are necessary for mining operation. They all need fuel power to operate. Minerals play a key role in a country's economic development by providing raw material to industries and employment opportunities in the mining sector. When we are doing mining, uh, we are providing employment opportunities for the people, and also when we are extracting mining, especially the metallic and non-metallic both, these are the important raw material for industries. Like we will not import these raw material from other countries. We will rather than we are using locally explored raw materials or minerals. If power resources are produced locally, the dependence on imported power resources is reduced. This helps to save foreign exchange resources and improves the balance of payment. I've told you that the balance of payment is the balance between the imports and exports. If we have more imports and less exports, so it means we have a negative balance of payment. But if we have more exports and less import, it means we have a positive balance of payment. Power resources play a key role in the modernization of society. All electrical appliances and IT devices, the information technology devices such as computers, cell phones, TV, radio, and many other gadgets run on power and electricity. In recent years, economic development has become dependent on communication devices which cannot operate without an efficient power supply. So we are done with this chapter, and the next topic is the sustainable development of power resources. But you can see a blue margin line, a vertical blue line in the margin of the text, which indicates the extension material that is not specified in your syllabus. So this unit is over here, and today you have to do two questions with their subparts, and this is on page number 154, and the question is question number 8 and question number 9 with their subparts. In the A you have A, B, C with subparts, and then question number 9 uh, you have to do, and both the questions are from past papers. Question number 8 is from 2008 June, and question number 9 is from 2010 November paper. So please do these questions in your notebook and make a margin line. Must write today's day and date, and do neat and tidy work. Thank you so much, dear students, for watching this video. I hope the whole unit will be clear now. If still you have any confusion or problem, you can drop your queries in the comment box, and I'll definitely entertain all your comments or questions. And we'll meet again with another lecture, with another video, with a new chapter. Till then, bye.